If two people are truly meant to be together, there is one pattern that appears almost every time. It does not matter how different their backgrounds are. It does not matter how unexpected their meeting seems. It does not matter how impossible the situation looks from the outside. There is one thing that almost always happens first. Most people believe destiny arrives in a gentle way. They imagine it showing up as comfort, certainty, and instant happiness. They think it feels like finally finding the missing piece. They imagine two people meeting, feeling immediate peace, and knowing without any doubt that they are meant to be together. But real destiny rarely works that way. Real destiny often enters your life quietly and then changes everything. Instead of bringing peace right away, it brings disruption. Instead of making life simple, it makes you question things. Instead of giving immediate answers, it forces you to look at parts of yourself that you have ignored for years. When two people are genuinely meant to play an important role in each other's lives, the journey rarely begins with easy love. More often, it begins with change. The connection appears, and suddenly old beliefs start falling apart. Things that once felt certain no longer feel certain. Habits that once felt normal no longer feel right. Patterns that you never questioned begin to reveal themselves. This is not punishment. This is preparation. Before two people can truly come together, they often need to become different versions of themselves. Many people misunderstand what destined love actually is. They believe it should feel comfortable from the very beginning. They think it should arrive as a safe place where nothing hurts and nothing feels difficult. But meaningful connections rarely begin with comfort. They begin with recognition. Recognition is different from attraction. Attraction can happen quickly. It can be based on appearance, chemistry, or excitement. Recognition feels deeper. It feels as if something inside you notices the other person before your mind has time to understand why. You may not feel calm. You may not feel secure. You may not even feel completely certain about them. Yet something inside you responds. You feel seen in a way that surprises you. You feel understood in ways that are difficult to explain. It is almost as if the other person notices parts of you that even you have not fully explored. This experience can be unsettling. Most people expect love to make them feel relaxed. But sometimes, the connections that matter most make you feel exposed before they make you feel comfortable. That is because these connections often act like mirrors. They reflect your fears. They reflect your insecurities. They reflect your emotional wounds. They reflect the parts of yourself that still need healing. The other person does not only see the version of you that you show to the world, they somehow touch deeper layers. And that can feel intense. It can even feel frightening. That is why powerful connections often feel overwhelming at first. They create awareness before they create closeness. They reveal truths before they provide comfort. This is also why people who are truly meant to share an important future often do not stay together in the beginning. Life has a strange way of creating distance between them. At first, this distance can seem unfair. It can feel confusing. It can feel unnecessary. But there is often a deeper reason behind it. One person may still be carrying pain from the past. One person may be afraid of vulnerability. One person may not yet understand their own value. One person may still be seeking love from a place of fear instead of emotional balance. Sometimes, both people still have important lessons to learn. And even good people can hurt each other when they are carrying unhealed wounds. So life creates space. Life creates distance. Life says, not yet. Not because the connection is wrong, but because the timing is incomplete. If two people come together before they are ready, they can damage something that could have become meaningful. The separation becomes part of the process. As painful as it feels, it serves a purpose. This is why the pain of these connections often feels different from ordinary heartbreak. It is not just sadness, it is confusion. It feels like something important has been interrupted. You do not simply miss the other person. You feel as though something inside you has been awakened and then left unfinished. This happens because these connections are often tied to growth. When someone enters your life and creates deep change, their absence affects you differently. Their departure forces you to look inward. It forces you to ask questions. It forces you to examine patterns that you may have avoided for years. You begin noticing your fear of rejection. You begin noticing how much approval you seek from others. You begin noticing how often you sacrifice your own needs to keep people close. You begin noticing the ways you abandon yourself while trying to hold on to relationships. These realizations are not comfortable, but they are important. The pain is not there to destroy you. The pain is there to wake you up. That is one of the most misunderstood truths about destined connections. Their purpose is not to break your heart. Their purpose is to expand your awareness. Even when there is no contact, even when there is silence, even when logic tells you to move on, something inside you continues changing. You become more aware of who you are. You become more careful about who you allow into your life. You start protecting your peace. You become more honest about your feelings. You become more honest about your boundaries. Things that once seemed acceptable no longer feel acceptable. Situations you once tolerated begin to feel exhausting. People you once chased no longer seem worth chasing. You stop wanting surface-level attention. You start craving depth. You stop wanting temporary comfort. You start wanting genuine connection. Many people never realize that this growth started the moment that certain person entered their life. The change did not begin when they left. The change began when they arrived. They acted as a catalyst. They triggered something deep within you. They started a process that continued long after the connection changed. This is why these experiences are not really about obsession. They are about reflection. Instead of constantly focusing on the other person, you begin focusing on yourself. You begin examining your choices. You begin examining your habits. You begin examining the stories you tell yourself about love, relationships, and self-worth. You ask deeper questions. Why do I fear closeness? Why do I accept less than I deserve? Why do I keep repeating the same patterns? Why do I seek validation outside myself? Why do I struggle to trust? These questions slowly reshape your life, and that is where the real transformation begins. You are not the same person you were when this connection first entered your life. Something inside you has changed. You have become stronger in ways that are not always visible. You have gained clarity where there was once confusion. You have become more grounded, more aware, and more connected to yourself. The lessons that were meant for you have slowly settled into your heart, even if the process was difficult. This is the deeper truth about destined connections. They are never just about keeping someone. They are not about ownership, control, or possession. Their true purpose is transformation. They arrive to awaken something within you. They challenge you to grow beyond who you were. They guide you toward a deeper understanding of love, self-respect, emotional maturity, and personal growth. When two people who are truly meant to impact each other's lives reconnect after time apart, something often feels different. The difference is not dramatic. It does not arrive with loud declarations or overwhelming intensity. Instead, it feels calm. It feels steady. It feels familiar in a way that brings peace rather than anxiety. Your body begins to relax before your mind can explain what is happening. The tension that once lived inside your thoughts starts to fade. The fear of losing someone becomes quieter. The need to prove your value begins to disappear. You are no longer trying to perform for love. You are no longer hiding parts of yourself out of fear. You are no longer building walls to protect wounds that have already begun to heal. What appears in place of those old habits is honesty. Not forced honesty, not honesty that demands attention, but the kind that flows naturally because there is nothing left to hide. The connection feels calmer because both people have already walked through their own storms. It feels deeper because they have spent time facing parts of themselves they once avoided. It feels clearer because many of the illusions that once clouded their judgment have already fallen away. Nothing about it needs to be perfect. In fact, it no longer tries to be perfect. Instead, it becomes conscious. There is awareness in the way conversations happen. There is care in the way feelings are expressed. There is respect in the way boundaries are honored. Silence is no longer uncomfortable. Words are no longer used as weapons. There are no games to win. There are no secret tests. There is no need to constantly question how the other person feels. There is simply recognition, a quiet recognition that feels like meeting an old truth again. Only this time, both people carry greater wisdom, greater maturity, and greater strength. Yet even with all of this, some people never return to each other. This can be one of the most painful truths to accept. It can feel unfair. It can feel confusing. It can leave questions that seem impossible to answer. But the connection was still real. The emotions were real. The lessons were real. The impact was real. Nothing about it was imagined. Nothing about it was meaningless. Not every destined connection is meant to remain in your life forever. Some connections exist for a season. Some arrive only long enough to awaken something that has been sleeping inside you. Some enter your life, transform your inner world, and then leave once their purpose has been fulfilled. That does not make them less important. If anything, it makes them even more meaningful. Some connections come into your life to break patterns that have existed for generations. They reveal habits that were passed down long before you understood them. They expose beliefs about love that you accepted without realizing it. They show you where sacrifice became confused with love. They reveal where attachment became confused with safety. They uncover where silence became confused with peace. These relationships bring hidden wounds to the surface, not to hurt you, but to heal you. What remains buried often continues repeating itself. What is brought into the light finally has the chance to change. Other connections enter your life to teach self-love. They reflect back the ways you have neglected your own needs. They show you where you settle for less than you deserve. They reveal where you shrink yourself to make others comfortable. They expose the moments when you abandon your own voice just to keep someone close. Through these experiences, you begin to understand an important truth. Love should never require you to lose yourself. It should never cost you your dignity. It should never require you to silence your needs, ignore your intuition, or betray your values. These lessons are painful because they challenge old patterns, but they are necessary. Without them, you may have continued giving everything while receiving very little in return. Some destined connections awaken emotional depth that you forgot existed. They make you feel again. They remind you that your heart is still capable of caring deeply. They remind you that vulnerability is not weakness. They remind you that genuine connection is still possible. Even when those people leave, they leave something valuable behind. They leave you more open. They leave you more aware. They leave you more connected to your own emotional truth. Other connections completely redirect the course of your life. Meeting them changes the decisions you make. It changes the standards you accept. It changes the direction you choose to move in. Sometimes their purpose was never to stay. Their purpose was simply to prepare you for what comes next. That does not make the connection less sacred. In many ways, it makes it more sacred. Because sacred things are not defined by how long they last. They are defined by how deeply they change you. Many people wonder why destiny often feels painful before it feels gentle. They wonder why life seems to remove things before it offers something better. The answer is not always easy to hear. Destiny is not designed to protect your comfort. Comfort often keeps you trapped inside familiar patterns. Even unhealthy patterns can feel safe simply because they are familiar. Destiny is not protecting familiarity. It is protecting possibility. It is protecting your growth. It is protecting the version of you that is waiting to emerge. Sometimes your heart breaks because your soul is trying to evolve. Sometimes people leave because losing them is the only thing that can lead you back to yourself. At the time, it feels cruel. You replay conversations, you question your worth, you wonder what you could have done differently. You search for explanations. You carry pain that feels impossible to understand. But time reveals things that pain cannot. With distance comes perspective. With perspective comes understanding. Eventually, you begin to see that remaining in the same situation may have kept you trapped inside an older version of yourself. You begin to understand that the ending forced growth that you had been postponing. Again and again, one truth appears within these experiences. When two people are truly meant to share something meaningful, they are often required to grow separately first. Distance becomes part of the preparation. Separation becomes part of the lesson. Illusions fall away. False expectations disappear. Both people are forced to face themselves honestly. They confront old wounds. They confront fears. They confront unhealthy habits. They confront the ways they avoid responsibility for their own healing. This process is not punishment. It never was. It is preparation. Life creates space so transformation can happen. During that space, each person is shaped into someone more authentic, someone stronger, someone healthier, someone closer to the person they were always meant to become. And through that journey, they learn lessons that cannot be rushed. They learn that boundaries are not walls built out of fear. They are expressions of self-respect. They learn that their value does not depend on another person's approval. They learn that real confidence grows from within. They learn how to love deeply without losing themselves. They learn how to care without becoming dependent. They learn how to remain whole even when someone else walks away. Most importantly, they learn that choosing themselves is not selfish. It is necessary. Because no amount of love from another person can replace the relationship you have with yourself. Only after these lessons begin to take root does life reveal the next chapter. For some people, that chapter leads back to reunion. For others, it leads toward an entirely different path. But no one leaves the journey unchanged. Something important shifts inside. Something permanent awakens. The person who began the journey no longer exists in exactly the same way. And that is the true gift hidden within every destined connection.